Well, this is Barry for AskMando.com, and we're here at Art of Rockies, and I have with me Peter Miller. Pete is a principal in Miller Dodson, and they're experts in reserve studies. Pete, during the session today, you kind of started talking about what a reserve study is. Could you kind of tell the folks of us who didn't really know what that is?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. A reserve study basically is a financial report, financial recommendation, based on kind of architectural and engineering expertise. And probably the best way to understand reserves is this. You really have a three-part budget for any association. You've got your operations portion of the budget that pays for your insurance, your utilities, your management and staff costs, those sort of things. Then you've got a maintenance portion of your annual budget that goes to maintain all of the commonly owned elements, the furnishings and finishes for the unit interiors, the roofing and siding and windows on the building shell, all of the infrastructure and grounds and interior systems. So you're maintaining all of those things for as long as they can be maintained and paying for that out of your annual maintenance budget. Mm-hmm. The last portion of your three-part budget is your long-term capital reserves, which goes to paying for the replacement of the roof or the pool or the siding once those things have been maintained for as long as they can. And this is the portion of the budget that most resorts and most community associations either don't do properly or just completely ignore. The concept here is that we have a fair stewardship principle. Everybody that lives under this roof pays their fair share towards the replacement of this roof, whether they live here for 3 years or 30 years. The other portion is that what we're trying to do is to make sure that the roofs and the siding and whatever can be replaced on a timely basis, that you don't have to cut back on other services to be able to afford that, and you don't have to have special assessments. So in effect, what we're doing is protecting the value of the community or the resort, protecting the value of the investment that the owners have made in that community and resort, and also trying to keep that community or resort as competitive as possible by trying to keep it updated, fresh, and comparable to the other newer communities or resorts that are coming online.
So if a new resort is born and a new association is started, obviously having one of these studies done prior to development would be ideal, but in a lot of cases that's not done. So after the fact, if you've got an association and you're concerned about your reserves, what happens and how is that valuable to you?
Well, ideally, the reserve study is done as part of the budgeting that the developer puts in place. Mm-hmm. And we actually have some large national developers as clients that have us come in and do reserve studies, sometimes even just off of the drawings for the buildings in the community. Mm-hmm. But a new board of directors that's coming in that's taking over from the developer should do the reserve study as soon as possible. The reason being, and here's an analogy that a lot of board members understand. This is not unlike establishing a budget for a new family. You know that eventually your daughter's going to want to have a wedding, your kids are going to want a college education, you're going to want to retire. You don't know exactly what those things are going to cost, and you don't know exactly when they're going to occur, but the closer you get to that time, the better idea you have. So you're budgeting on that kind of basis. You're setting up a financial parameter so that you've got appropriate amounts of money aside in appropriate timeframes. But the other important thing is that the longer you wait to start saving for those things, the shorter amount of time you have to save for them, so the more money you have to put in each year. So the earlier you start putting aside money for reserves on an adequate basis, the more consistent it's going to be and the more equitable it's going to be over time for all of those owners.
Yeah. Peter, thanks for sharing with us today. And how would one get in touch with you if they wanted to know more about your services?
You can go onto our website, which is www.mdareserves.com, mm-hmm. Or you can give us a call on our toll-free number, 1-800-850-2835.
Thanks again, Peter, and hope to see you soon.
Barry, pleasure talking to you. Thank you.